All right, here we go, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, aka Mr. Everything, and I'm coming back at you with another Wargaming in Miniature live stream, where this is Wargaming Weekly. What we do is we build models, paint, discuss industry news, show off what projects I'm working on. Basically, we just spend a couple hours together talking about wargaming. Okay, so there's a couple of lessons I learned about putting these skeletons together. I want to share with you. Sure you can hear that. I'll let that finish. Okay, so these skeletons come with 3 poses. Well, that's not true. We'll say 3 fixed poses and 1 pose that you build yourself, right? So if you look at these skeletons, you'll see that some of them have these solid bases. Those are the 3 that are identical on every sprue. And then there's these guys that have no base, where you actually have to glue the legs to the torso. So you could technically glue one in the front, one in the back, mix and match the legs. Now all the arms are separate, so you can pose those however you want. That's just an anecdote. That's no big deal. Putting the legs on, I put them on straight up and down, which I shouldn't have done. I should have tested them on the ground with their feet on the ground and where the torso was. It was kind of hard because the parts are so small that you can't hold both legs and the torso together on the ground to make it look like where it's supposed to be. So I did my best guess, and what wound up happening was all the troops that are not on their bases are on their tippy toes. It's just, now if I wanted to put their feet flat on the ground, they would be leaning backwards. And that's not acceptable. So if I was to ever make this pack again, I probably will. Over the years, I'm sure I'm going to recreate this box. Either for my own army or for the store. Okay, so that's a lesson learned. And then there's another lesson. The heads. The heads are super small in your hand. I mean, they're just minuscule. And there's only like their neck goes up into their chin, it looks like. Right? They got this little hole there, and then they got the neck. The spine, I should say. There we go. And this is a mistake that I made, was putting the over the head spear and their shield on the model before I put the head. That was a mistake, because then it makes it very hard for me to get the head in the right spot, because the arms and the weapon and the shield is all in the way. So if I was to ever do this again, I would do the heads first, or at least before I put the shield on. Yeah, the over the head. I don't know if my focus is turned on or turned off. You know what? I don't even think I've got this turned on. Bear with me. It's going to change the way everything looks. Okay, not so bad. Let's move that out of the way. Yeah, I've got autofocus turned on, so I should be able to bring them up here where you can actually see that there's like a little spine nub that goes up into the back of the head, and now that I've got the spear and the shield in the way, it's really hard for me to get my fingers down in there to put that head in place. I mean, the models look good, and if I assemble them in a more knowledgeable way, yeah, knowing how hard it was going to be to get these skulls in place, I would have done it a little bit differently. Okay. Well, this is the last overhead spear, so I should be able to move on pretty quickly with those guys. But we'll see here in just a second. Okay, just glancing at the heads to make sure none of them have kind of like fallen over or gotten out of position or anything. Everything looks good. Also, normally what I will do is I will snip a plastic part off of a sprue, and then I'll go over that plastic part with my X-Acto knife, and I will clean up any mold lines, burrs, anything like that, any flash. And some of these parts, like this skull, I can't hold in my hand and trim. because they attach the skull to the sprue on the top of his head. So my thought process was glue the skull on to the model, and then once that is dried, then trim or scrape the top of the skull while it's attached to the spine. That way it'll be easier to hold. And it's funny, I got this skeletal musician that I'm putting together right now. Skeletons don't have lungs to blow into this horn unless it's just magic. But that's alright. I wanted to do a couple of unusual ones. I mean, it comes with a horn, so why not, right? Okay, so I did all of these are pretty much spearmen, except for a couple of them are holding swords. And then, wait, that's not true. This group back here are archers. These are spearmen. A couple of them have swords. And then these are pikemen. Right? So this is all from their classic fantasy line, which they all look Greek or Macedonian. I guess that's why they call it classic fantasy instead of like high fantasy. So basically, once I get these guys assembled, which I was hoping I'd have all this done by last night, but and then I could prime them, and then we can work on them today. It looks like I'm going to get the heads on here in just a little bit. And then maybe we'll do a little head scraping. And then we'll prime them. Which I have this Vallejo bone white. That's what I'm going to prime them in. Because 99% of this model is bone. So then I'll go in later and touch up the weapons and the shields. These guys have a bow and a quiver, the helmets and the plumes, and then they should be done. Because they don't have any belts or sword sheaths or anything like that, which is kind of disappointing because I think I would like to have some sword sheaths hanging off their butt or some belts like I don't know, some rags or something. There's a couple of other brands of skeletons that I put together recently. One of them is the Oathmark skeletons. I think those are really nice as well. And then I put together the Warlord skeletons, which, I don't know. Out of the three, I think they're my least favorite. I went ahead and mounted them on 1-inch squares. that's the same as what you would use with Oathmark, but there's nothing saying you can't use 1-inch squares with Warlords of Erewhon or D&D, even if you wanted to have like some D&D models of skeletons. Yeah, but primarily I did it for Oathmark. I prefer the Oathmark fantasy miniature rules over some of the others, like Warhammer. I pretty much lost interest in Warhammer. They've gone too far out left field. And the cost and the model scale changes have really, the battle scale too, like how many models you put on the table. They don't fight in formation anymore. They are all skirmishers. They are on these giant like Terminator bases, and the models are not 28 or even 25 or 30 millimeters. They're like super big. I'm like, not interested. Now, I don't mind skirmish games that only have like 10 models. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind that. Those are fun games as well. But what I was looking for was mass battles. And Warhammer did that really well back in the 90s. And then it just went downhill. Even Warhammer 40K was pretty good in the 90s. And I think that's what all you and me, grognards, super old wargamers, we remember the good old days with Warhammer. And we're hoping that Warhammer is still that way, and it's not. Dude, what the hell's going on with your neck? There you are. Now, I don't know if you remember me starting up some Celts, right? No, I don't even think I even told you about that or did that. Last week, I was debating... Ooh, I don't like the way this is going to sit. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by this model. The spine is like right under the pike, so it's going to be... This head's going to be a little... It's going to be pressing against the pike. Or I'll need to turn the head. Yeah, that's no problem. But last week I was trying to decide what I wanted to paint up for going forward for the week. And I was, I put it up to a vote on the channel. Like, what should I paint? What shouldn't I paint? Well, by the time I got ready to do the painting, I hadn't received any votes. So I just made a decision on my own. I know that's crazy. Mr. Everything taking initiative? What the hell? Never heard of it. And I went through some of my models that I've had for years, just sitting around, just figured I'd knock them out, get them out of the way. Thought about some Macedonians. I thought about some Celts. I thought about some German Grenadiers. I even thought, and this was all 28s, and I also thought about some 15s that I've got. Some American War of Independence, some Napoleonics. Thought about rebasing some of my allies that because they need to be rebased. Yeah, his head is like turned to the side. But that's fine. He's a skeleton. He's got a weak neck. And I decided to go ahead and do my Celts. I found that I had exactly 48 of them. So I thought to myself I could make 2 units of 24. And I'll just paint them up and do the thing. But then once I got started painting, I pretty much changed my tune. And I decided to mount them individually for either Oathmark, Warlords of Erewhon, SPQR, you know, any game that uses individually mounted bases. Okay, this is another one that's giving me grief because the shield is right underneath his chin. Okay, I'll just press the chin against the shield there. These guys, they got to be careful because they got pikes that stick up to there, you know? I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the pike's like 2.5 inches long. Another lesson I learned about these skeletons, sharing all these lessons. The shields. It comes with 3 shields, 3 styles of shields. We got the figure 8 shield, we got the hoplon, and then we got the small round shield. Now the small round shield, you get 2 per sprue, where you get 1 per sprue of the other ones. 1 each of the hoplon and the figure 8. And if you don't, now they come 32 in a box, but I'm doing 2 boxes here, guys. This is 64 models. Trying to figure out how many archers you wanted to use out of those 8 sprues, because you would get 8 pikes, you would get 8 archers, you could get 16. Actually, you could get, they have 3 spear poses, so you could make an overhead, an underarm, and a thrusting spear, which is what I did. I've got over, underarm, and thrusting spears. And yeah, it's trying to decide. Now, because I was doing this for Oathmark has a 5-man unit, right? So, actually it's 5+. So you can go with 6 figures. You can go with 7 or 8 figures if you want. But in the game, the bonuses come with every full rank after the first. And the first has to be 5. Right? So the best way to do Oathmark units, 5, 10, 15, etc. But that doesn't balance out with 64, right? So, I mean, I could do 6 10-man units, but I would have those 4 extra figures. Or I could do 12 5-man units, but I would still have those extra 4. I could do a bunch of 6-man units, or at least 4 of them, and then the rest be 5-man units, which is what I think I'm going to do. I might even do some 10-man units, or even 15, because that's how I organize these guys. I basically put them in groups of 5, but understanding that it's going to be either 5, 10, or 15. Because like my archers, I think I did 15. When, remember, you get 8 per sprue, and I mean 8 per box, and I'm doing 2 boxes. So I could have done 16, but that would have been just 1 extra archer that I decided not to do. So what I wound up doing was I decided on those 4. Okay, that's not... Okay, let that dry just a second before I stick it on there. So I decided to make 4 command figures. Basically, the 3 guys with swords and then the 1 musician. It does come with a skull that you can mount on one of these pikes, or even probably one of these spears, to be a standard. But I decided against it. I would rather have the pike and not the standard. But because I'm doing 16 pikes, I could have used my... I'm doing 15 pikes. I could have used the 16th pike and made a standard bearer, but I decided against it. All right, last but not least, this is the last thing I need to glue on this unit, and that is going to make this unit ready for cleanup. The next unit I'm going to work on is going to probably be '95th Rifles, maybe. I'm basically going through some of my Wargames Atlantic boxes. I don't know, I guess I could do some halflings or some dwarves. I'm basically doing a bunch of fantasy models, but I think I wanted to do the Panzer Lear from Wargames Atlantic, but I'm all sold out. I went through my boxes and I'm like, oh no, I don't have any more Panzer Lear. I've sold them all. And they've just released the Commandos and the Guard Sentries boxes. I might have to order those. Yeah, that's another thing. Wargames Atlantic is really doing a good job on their models and their releases. Now, their releases aren't fast. You know, 4 boxes a year, it seems like, you know. Or it might be more, but I only count the boxes that I'm interested in, if that makes sense. Because I'm definitely not interested in, I don't know, the Renaissance ones. They got a few other boxes. But I'm getting ready to, I guess I'm going to place an order pretty soon from them. And I tried ordering those spiders because the goblins and the spiders, if you got a box set of both, you can actually make spider riders. Oh, that trimmed pretty easily. Okay, I'm very happy with that. I don't want to do the ones on this end because those are the ones I just glued. So I'm working from this end, which I glued last night. Yeah, and I like my skeletons to have smooth skulls. Ooh, like that. Yeah, so if you know anything about me and my wargaming history and stuff like that, when I was playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles back in the 90s, I opened a game store called the War Room in 95. And I had about 5 or 6 tables, nothing huge. They were all 4x8s, you know, basically just a sheet of plywood on a table. If I was to open another store, which is always a possibility, but if I was to open another store, I would do those tables a little bit differently. Because when I made my personal table at home, which that is true, I did make my own personal table at home, for one thing, I used a different material. I didn't use plywood. I used MDF. And it was super thick, like 3/4 inch MDF. And instead of just throwing the plywood on the table, which that's not really what I did, I took 4 pieces of wood and I screwed them into the bottom of the plywood the size of the table, so the plywood wouldn't shift around. It sat, there was like a banquet table underneath, and when it sat down it wouldn't move because the wood was holding it in place. But when I made my personal table at home, I did that, but I also did I edged the entire edge of the table, kind of like this table has you got the wood right here, and then you have this piece of wood here that's an edge. And by doing that, you help prevent any warping or bending of the plywood. Because, and I don't mind using plywood, but the edging was the key. Because I noticed over the 7 years that I had the store, those tables were gradually starting to warp. Also, this is funny. The heater didn't work half the time. You know, complain all you want to the landlord. The heater never gets fixed. That's one reason why I moved locations, because the first location, the heater just never worked. And so I brought in my own space heater, you know, a kerosene space heater that basically it was super toasty in there with that kerosene space heater. But I don't know if you know this. I learned this, that a kerosene space heater puts out, well, a lot of heat, but it also, when you burn kerosene, apparently I don't want to call it residue, but the exhaust, I guess, is what you would call it, or the I don't know. But what happened was moisture, liquid, water would go into the store. Oh, there goes a skull. I popped him off. I had a feeling that was going to happen. I found the skull. Okay. Maybe I don't want to put that box under there. I thought I was being very gentle. Maybe I didn't. Maybe. Oh, I didn't even close this up. Damn. So I got to be more gentle and do it on top of the table so it doesn't fall down into the trash can. Dun dun dun. Yeah, so it put out all this humidity into the store, which nobody cared. You know, it felt good in the store. It was nice and warm, and everybody was happy. But the downside is my books on the shelf started to warp, curl up. The humidity caused the books, because the books were laying flat on these shelves, so when you walk by you could see the title or the whatever. But when the cover of these paperbacks were starting to curl up, it took away from the value of the book, I thought. So I had to move locations, because that heater situation was not ideal. Okay, maybe I got a little overzealous with scraping that skull, and I just busted it. So yeah, looking back on, and that might have also contributed to the tables warping as well. So looking back on it, lessons learned, right? If I ever did it again, I would make sure that having a heater that worked, central heat and air, was going to be important. It was kind of an old building, you know, the lights, they failed a couple of times. In that, it was like neon lights, but the ballast or whatever went bad in one of my lights. Had to replace that, and there was all different kinds of issues that I was having with that store. There was a water heater for hot water in the bathroom, which the water heater was like right in the middle of the store. So I don't know. It was, let's just say my store was very homey. It was very not corporate, you know. My wife would bring in like brownies for all the customers to have, and you know, we had drinks and candy like on a shelf, and there was like a swear jar, like a cookie jar, that you would just put your money in there and take your candy bar. Totally on the honor system. You know, it was like, and I only charged what I paid, maybe 50 cents a candy bar or something like that. It was very 1990s, you know. But we had sodas that people could buy. At one point, I actually got a soda machine to come in there. You know, I went to, I don't remember, it was Coke or Pepsi, and I said, can we get a soda machine in here? And they were like, yep. And you know what was interesting about that was I didn't get a dime out of that soda machine. It was all for the customers. Coke would come by every week or whatever, and they would see what we were out of, and they would refill it and take the money out of the machine. And okay, this guy's not dry. As soon as I touched it, it went pop. Either it wasn't dry or it wasn't glued very well the first time. So luckily, that's another good thing, that by doing this, I'm discovering some weak links, which if I'm going to sell these, which I am, I don't want to sell them to some customer with a weak neck. You know, it might break off in one of his games or something. That's not cool. You know, I don't want to give him some faulty product. Yeah, so basically the candy was all done on the honor system, which what I would do was we'd go to Sam's Club or whatever and buy bulk candy bars or chips or whatever. My wife would make brownies and put them in like little Ziploc bags so that if anybody wanted some brownies, they could buy a brownie. Which I thought was pretty cool. Customers loved it. Okay, skull. You're giving me a little bit of a problem. And of course, it's on one of the ones where the spear is raised. Because those are the ones that I had the hardest time getting the skull in the right position. Okay, you were the two that I just did. I'm going to let those sit. Now the ones with these Corinthian helmets with plumes, I don't need to really do anything with those. I'm not scraping those or anything because they were large enough for me to handle and scrape any undesirable plastic off already. So I'm just grabbing all the ones with those little heads, which there should be about 16 of them. I thought about making a whole unit of just those, but then I thought, well, those really should be officers, you know. But then, you know, I did more than just one per unit, I think. So some units would have 2 or 3 of them. Okay, so once I get all these skulls scraped, we'll prime them. So the weather here has been really bad. Just a lot of rain, really. Not like tornadoes or anything like that. It's just been a lot of rain. So it's really wet outside, humidity-wise, right? And speaking of humidity, whenever you spray a model with spray paint of any kind and it's humid outside, the paint won't dry properly. Now a lot of my spray paints have an odor, right? You all know this. You all use spray paints. But I'm getting to something. I'm getting to a topic. And so, alternatively, other than leaving them outside to dry so that the odor is outside, the humidity would ruin the paint job. Or I should say, cause the primer to dry differently. So alternatively, I could, okay, there's a little bit of a, okay, that was just a filing. I could spray them outside, which is what I've been doing. I've been spraying them outside, but I can bring them inside to dry. But then that'll stink up the house, right? Now, if it was just primer, it's not that big of a deal to leave it outside. because it's only primer. I'm going to be painting over it anyway. So it doesn't really matter like how it dries or the color that it dries. I'm being very gentle on these skulls. I'm just doing a very soft drag of this blade. No. If I can feel a burr with this thumb, then I know it's going to look horrible when I spray paint it. Okay. But my point is, when I seal the model, right, with Tester's dull coat, that's what I've been using, which is technically Rust-Oleum dull coat. So that's got the worst smell out of all of them. I can live with some spray paint smell, but this dull coat smell is the worst, right? And dull coats that you put outside in the humidity to dry ruin the model's paint job, because it'll dry all white and smoky and cause the unit to look very dusty or something like that. So I have to bring those inside. Ooh, this has got a big burr on this head. I'm using the blade. Okay. Seems sturdy. Oh, let me slow down so I don't bust anything. Stop getting excited, you know, or anxious, I should say. So my point is, I've been, in the last couple of weeks, I've been spraying outside and then bringing them inside to dry. Was that my stomach? Oh my gosh. I just ate. So I was watching this other guy's video where he was painting a Italian, right? I don't know if it was a Wargames Atlantic Italian or if it was a Warlord Italian. I have a feeling it was a metal Italian from some weird company, because he does models from all kinds of crazy companies. And at the end, he pulled out some AK dull coat brush on. And I was like, that never works. But then when I looked at his model when he was done, I was like, oh my gosh, that looks really good. And it's got the level of flat that I want on my models. So FYI, I ordered some AK dull coat. When I get it in, I'll do a little review of it, show you guys what it looks like. I might compare it, might do a product comparison to some spray dull coats. I saw that they had a new formula, but I think I got the old formula because the new formula says matte. They have an old formula that says matte as well, but they also have one called ultra matte. And to me, matte is not flat. I don't understand. You know, different companies call different things different things. When he used it on his Italian, to me, that looked flat. So I have a feeling, I don't really know because that was a few weeks ago, if he was using the Ultra Matte. So I ordered Ultra Matte, just to let you know. I ordered Ultra Matte. It also apparently comes in like a big bottle, what I ordered. It's not a 8 milliliter or whatever these things are. 0.6, 18 milliliters. Yeah, it's not an 18 milliliter. Oh man, how many milliliters? Well, it's definitely not 200 milliliters. I think it was 64 milliliters. Okay, this is 59, so it's probably going to be close to this size. It might have been 32. Might have been 32. What's 1 fluid ounce? Yeah. Half an ounce is 18, so 1 ounce is probably around 32. So it's actually probably about this big. I think. I don't know. When I get it, I'll find out. I don't even remember. I just ordered it. I said, "Ooh, okay, let's order it. Let's put it to use, especially over the winter where everything's going to be humid outside, you know, with snow and rain and everything else." Okay, I'm starting to get into the pikemen, which I know I did today, and now I'm scared to scrape them because I don't know if they are dry. They seem like they're pretty sturdy, so we'll see. And when I used the clipper, I tried to clip it as smooth and as clean as possible to the top of the skull, because I knew this was going to be an issue. Okay, this shield looks like I never fixed it. This shield might have been one of the last two that I cut off because I did those late, like after the fact. So anybody out there that's in my audience, do any of you guys play any fantasy armies? Do you play any fantasy miniature games? Or are you strictly historical? Or are you strictly sci-fi? Or do you play a little everything? But yeah, if you have any fantasy armies, I mean, you don't have to be currently painting them. I mean, you could have them on the shelf. If you have any fantasy armies, let me know. Do you play goblins? Do you play humans? Or elves or dwarves or undead, lizardmen. I had a customer back in the day that his name was Pat, and he was a very bright, smart. He can crunch numbers, and he would be a very good play tester, I think, for any game, because he could work out all the angles. He could break a game super easy. Like, he could figure out what the best combination of attacks were, and he was just very good at it. And he played Warhammer with us. And he played Lizardmen. And I went to ask him like a general question that I would have answered differently, or with a different I would have been motivated a little bit differently. I would have answered it differently than what he did. I asked him, why or how, or what do you like about, or something like that about the Lizardmen. And he said, because I can't lose. I said, okay, so you don't care about their history or the way the models look, or or how they play, on the table, like charging or archery or any of that stuff. He's like, no, I just like the fact that I can't lose, and so that's why I play them. And it made me feel a little sorry for him. Yeah, these round shields, they looks like I didn't do any work on them. I could have swore I did. Maybe now that I'm really focusing in on the skull, it's making those shield little burrs stand out even more. And also, just because you see a discoloration on the plastic doesn't mean there's a burr there. Whoops, okay. But it probably does. Okay. I'm thinking a strong tone wash on these guys. All my medievals, which this would fall under fantasy, medievals, ancients, etc. I think a strong wash to really make the armors pop, but this is just bone. So I don't know, I'm debating between a strong wash or a soft tone. And remember, I mix it with a fluid that makes it run better. Okay. These guys are starting to look really good. I mean, with me trimming the shields. Some of these skulls don't even need any trimming because I must have cut nice and close to the skull when I cut them off the sprue. Yeah, and this shield looks like one of the ones that I've already cleaned, but it still has a little bit of a burr on these guys. And I hate leaving burrs because it really makes the paint job look like shit. Okay, I got some Prussian flags on the way from Flags of War. Or was it War Flag? I don't remember. War Flag, I think. Flags of War. War Flag. Flags of War. I think it's Flags of War. And they've already shipped them. So I'll probably get them in a week or so. If I get them in soon, I'll do those Prussians Napoleonics. 5 units of them. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I went to order the flags, I accidentally ordered 6 Prussian units of flags. I probably could have got away with maybe 3. Because I noticed that the front rank command bags that I bought to to make command for my units only comes with 1 standard bearer. So I could have put the Liebfanion on 1 unit, and then the, I don't know, what is it called? Regimental and National. Or Provincial. Yeah, I could have put them on 2 units, but no big deal. I'll just have a bunch of extra Prussian flags that I can put on future units. Okay, that skull's got to be trimmed, and this is the one that I busted off. These are the last two. I think it's nice and sturdy on there. It's got that little bitty burr. So I don't know if you guys follow sports, but I do, and the Titans, Tennessee Titans professional football, fired their general manager. Okay, this head is moving around. It is not dry, but it is trimmed. Okay. I don't want to sit here and wait for these to dry. I want to prime them. Well, the only thing that needs to dry is that guy. But I'll give it a few minutes before I spray them. Yeah, because he made some bad decisions over the last couple of years. Everybody likes him. Everybody thinks he overall did a great job. But the last couple of years, he made some really bad decisions. And when we went in to play Philadelphia, there was a comment I made to my son when we were watching. There was this one play. I don't remember when it was, or it was later in the game, but basically our quarterback falls back to throw the ball. But as fast as he was falling back, the offensive line was getting pushed back as fast. So we have 5 guys on the offensive line, you know, the center and the guards and the tackles. And Philadelphia had 4 guys on the defensive line, and those 4 guys pushed our 5 guys straight back, bull rush. No, there was no like fancy spin moves or stunts or, you know, swim moves or nothing like that. It was just pushing straight back. And our guys just got manhandled. They just got pushed back, and Tannehill didn't even have a chance to do anything. He just got sacked before he even got to the back of his drop. And I made a comment to my son. I said, they made our guys look like, what did I say? They made our guys look like wimps, because it was like grown men versus children is what it looked like. And I think that was just part of the reason why our general manager got fired. Okay, I think that's enough time. So now I don't know. Boop. Yeah, it looks like all those would fit on this. Now, there is a primer out there, a gray primer. This, I don't think it's this gray primer. I think this was the Rust-Oleum. But there is a gray primer out there, which is Liquitex. And it's a water-based primer, so it doesn't have that stinky odor. So I've considered using that one and being able to, I'll be able to carry it inside and not worry about the odor. Normally I'm not this meticulous. Normally I just throw a bunch of figures on the base and just go with it. But I want to make sure that there's a little bit of a gap between figures and that they're all fitting on this board. Might have to do a little adjustment. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be enough room. I'm going to have to adjust a little bit. Okay, that seems like the outer edge. Yeah, you guys probably will not, just because of the time of day and everything, you're probably not going to get a chance to see me finish these. Yeah, I'm concerned about these pikes because when I'm spraying, I'm afraid I'm gonna like bump into them. Guess it doesn't matter. Hey, it works out perfect. Yay! And not Kanye. Okay. So, let me go find my spray. Dead flesh? Nope. Yeah, this is the Liquitex spray primer. That's water-based. And this thing still feels full, even though I've used it a ton of times. That doesn't look like flesh or bone. Bone white. There it is. Part of the fantasy line. Yeah, bone white. Looks pretty good. I muted it because you didn't need to hear this. Okay, be right back. Going outside. Alright, I just went ahead and grabbed a box. This is the box, you know, the classic fantasy skeleton warriors. That's what we're working on right here. 32 figures. There's 64 here. Now, just looking at the picture, right, I'm noticing that they've got some pretty good looks like the Macedonian star on the two little shields, and then it looks like they've got Greek heraldry on the other shields, which I actually have quite a few Greek decals. I could easily just slap some of them on there, which I might do. I also have some Macedonian decals, because there was a time when I was collecting Macedonians and Greeks for my Hail Caesar armies. They are the shades of men of Sparta, Athens, Thebes, and Macedon. Macedon. When a necromancer plunders the coins meant for Charon, she can reanimate the remains. Why does it have to be a she? Can reanimate their remains and bind them for her will. Only by removing the skull from the body or destroying the coins may the warriors break their curse and return to the grave. Nice. Yeah, one good thing about the Vallejo primers, they dry very fast. I could almost start painting right away. I'm not going to, though. I'm going to give it a good hour or so to dry, so before I start painting. But the odor is also, because it dries fairly fast, the odor isn't as bad as like Krylon or Rust-Oleum. All right. Just some news, finally. Yep, I'm going to look at the screen there. There's just a little bit of news. I haven't really touched the website. That's not the news I was talking about, though. If you're a Warlord Games fan, they've got this wish list, holiday wish list thing going on. So if you're part of their subscriber base, you probably got the email already where you can add stuff to your wish list, and they're going to pick out a couple of hundred people to win items from their wish list, or just some. The majority of them are going to be, well, actually maybe a handful actually going to win something from their wish list. But a handful, the majority are going to win like points. It's better than nothing. They didn't have to do that. I think that's pretty cool that they're doing it. Points suck, but like I said, it's better than nothing. Let me think some other things that are going on. Wargames Atlantic has released the Sentries and the Commandos. My guess is, I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is that, I don't know if you know this, but there is a game out there called Dark 30 or something like that. Or 230. It's a commando game using miniatures where you take a commando team and you try to go blow up a fuel depot or a train station or something, and the German sentries are on patrol around with their German Shepherds and flashlights and stuff, and they're trying to prevent that. But I don't know anything really about that game other than that. I mean, that's just a general overview. The game seems like it could be really fun, but I'm afraid it's going to be like a one-shot pony. Like, you play the Commandos once, and you play the Sentries once, and you've played the whole game. You know, you can change the scenario, like it might be a V1 rocket site you're trying to blow up, or it might be a like a general you're trying to capture, or something like that. But it's still kind of, all the scenarios are exactly the same. I don't know. It just seems like that. But this company commissioned Wargames Atlantic to make their Commandos and Sentries. So I have a feeling that the Wargames Atlantic Commandos and Sentries are basically those sprues just reboxed as units for their company or whatever. I think. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but here, let's move that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Here we go. This is okay. Whoa, I gotta take those glasses off. Put these on. Okay. Space Nam. Not interested. There's the Classic Fantasy. Blood Oaths. I got the 95th Rifles. Here is British Commandos and German Sentries. Now, oh yeah, this is new. This is new. The Langschneck Ogres, right? How come that doesn't become a big picture? Click or scroll to zoom. Okay. Yeah, so I made this. I used to play Warhammer. I mentioned it earlier. And I had a Dogs of War, a bunch of units from Dogs of War, and one of them was a ogre. No, it's actually an orc. Ogre? I guess he was an ogre because, I don't know, I painted him green like an orc. Like maybe these two guys, right? And he had the puff and slash, and he had a musket, like maybe, oh, looks like a sword, like this guy right here. These are pretty cool. It's a pre-order though, shipping late December. I'm gonna have to get these in. You get nine ogres, or 9 of the vein for death fields. Okay, vein, that'd be sci-fi. I wonder if they like those guys right there. Or Ogrin, you know, like in Warhammer. Those might be popular. I don't know. Yeah, so I was kind of excited to see those. So I think when those get released, when the ogres get released, I'm not going to pre-order them now. I probably should, to guarantee that I get some. I don't know. But, and then there's these Sentries and the SAS Commandos. I mean, that's just cool. Now, don't the commandos have green berets? Airborne is the red berets. Yeah, like that guy. Yeah, green berets. Commandos. But I guess you could make some paratroopers. I guess they come with both. Let's see what this says. Special Air Service for the... Okay, 30 SAS, SBS, or Royal Marine Commandos with a variety of headgear equipment, Sten, Bren, and Tommy, Lee Enfield, sniper rifles, pistols, demo charges. Yeah, I got to do that for bolt action. I'm going to have to... This is a pre-order also? January? Oh, it's not out yet. Okay. I don't know what URA is. Landschnick, box printing mid-December, box printing, estimated time of shipping, I guess, is January. This is World War I. Giant spiders, mid-December. Looking over my tripod here. They have a game. Wait, what? In the pipeline. Okay. Secret set. World Ablaze and shh. British infantry. The Great War. Not interested. Oh, Warring States. Oh, wait, that might be Civil War. It says First Empires. I'll have to look at the First Empires. Warring States, Infantry, Cavalry. Warring States. Greek? First Empires? Greek? Because Decline and Fall is Romans. Oh, look at that. That's Macedonian. Okay, I'm really looking forward to some of these guys. Spanish Napoleonic, that'll be okay. World War I, not really interested in that. Trolls, definitely interested in that. French Old Guard. Napoleonic Wars. Yes, please. Modern Operators. Yes, please. Halfling Cavalry, Trojan Chariot. Treemen. Yes, please. Yeah, see, it looks like they've got a lot in the pipeline. I'm super excited for this company. I know they're fairly new, right, to the okay, what is it? Yeah, First Empires. Oh, that might be like ancient. Well, to the fall of Alexander. So it could be. That's not what I wanted. Iron Core. Okay, this. I like this idea, but it's got to be fleshed out a little better. And Death Fields feels like it would fall into the whole iron core thing. I don't know. There's something. Okay, these guys. Clicked. Maybe I just need to click here. Oh, is it work?
Oh, nobody showed up.
Again?
Oh, yeah, it's the last day. I started new classes on Monday.
Oh, okay. Okay. Those just look like.
I drive the car, but engine light came on. Run over to AutoZone or something, see if they can check it.
Engine light? I mean, it's been sitting there. Okay, that's pre-order. Yeah, so it looks like this next month or two they're going to have some really good models coming out. I'll pick them up. I have these as well, and I have these. Working on these. I have these. I've been kind of wanting to get the. Oh wait, Lizardmen. And the Landschnick Ogres. I didn't know they had Lizardmen. With muskets. 24 Lizardmen. Interesting. Alright guys, well that's where we're going to call it. I'm basically just going to wait for these to dry before I just start painting on them. They feel like they're pretty dry. I could probably start painting on them right away. But I'm not. I'm going to let them just sit for an hour. Give it some time. Don't jump the gun.